I woke up in the hospital, weak but grateful I'd survived surgery. My husband, Mark, wasn't there, just a note on the bedside table. "We need to talk when you're home." At first, I thought it was concern. But when I returned, a courier arrived with divorce papers. The date stunned me, filed the morning after my operation. My world shattered. But Mark had forgotten one thing. I wasn't the same woman he thought he could walk over. What he didn't know was that my best friend's husband was a lawyer, and I was about to make him regret everything. When I met Mark 12 years ago, I thought I'd found stability. He was charming, decisive, successful, the kind of man who walked into a room and made everyone look twice. I was quiet, a nurse working double shifts. Grateful that someone like him saw me. For years, we were happy, or at least I believed we were. Until last winter, I noticed the changes first in small things. Fewer good mornings, more late-night calls. And that cold detachment that creeps into a marriage without saying a word. Then came the surgery, a benign tumor, they said, but it required full abdominal reconstruction. Mark had promised to take care of me. He said, "Don't worry, I'll be right there when you wake up." He wasn't. When I opened my eyes, the nurse told me he'd left early for a work emergency. I tried not to take it personally. I told myself maybe he was scared. But 3 days later, when I was finally discharged, the only sign of him was that note on my bedside table. "We need to talk." At home, the air felt different. Cold, too clean, like someone had tried to erase their presence. His clothes were gone from the closet. Our wedding photo, usually on the dresser, was missing. My hands trembled as I called him, but it went straight to voicemail. That's when the knock came. A man in a suit handed me an envelope. "Mrs. Collins," he said. I nodded. "You've been served." Inside were divorce papers filed the very next day after my surgery. The reason? Irreconcilable differences. My knees gave out. I dropped to the floor, the envelope slipping from my hands. 12 years of marriage. Gone, just like that. No conversation. No closure. I called him again, and this time he answered. "Mark, why?" "After everything," I asked, my voice shaking. He sighed. "Claire, you'll understand one day. It's better this way." "Better for who?" "For both of us," he said coldly. "You'll get the house. I'll send the papers. Just sign them." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Days passed in a blur of painkillers, tears, and silence. My body was healing, but my heart felt like it had been cut open all over again. My sister came to stay with me, and one evening she said, "You know, I saw Mark last week, at dinner, with someone." That someone was his assistant, a woman I'd met at his company's holiday party. Young, polished, always too comfortable around him. The realization hit me like ice water. He hadn't left because of differences. He'd left because he'd already moved on. But here's the thing about betrayal. Once the shock fades, something else takes its place. Clarity. I didn't want revenge. Not at first. I just wanted to survive. But when I took those papers to my friend Julia for advice, she called her husband, Michael, a corporate lawyer known for being ruthless in court. After reading the documents, he said, "Claire, this isn't just a divorce. He's trying to cut you off financially." Apparently, Mark had tried to hide assets, his company shares, investments, even a new condo in his girlfriend's name. Michael leaned back, smirking. "He really thought you'd just sign this." I shook my head, my jaw tightening. Not anymore. That night, something in me shifted. The weak, broken woman in the hospital bed was gone. I spent hours gathering every document, every email, every proof of his betrayal. For the first time, I wasn't crying, I was planning. Over the next week, Michael and his team built a case. Turns out, filing for divorce right after my surgery wasn't just cruel, it was suspiciously timed to catch me legally vulnerable. But under the state's family law, his actions could backfire badly if proven malicious. And that's exactly what we planned to prove. The day Mark got his letter, this time from my lawyer, I wish I could have seen his face. He probably expected me to fold, to quietly sign and disappear. Instead, he received a formal notice demanding full financial disclosure and temporary spousal support, citing his affair and abandonment as aggravating factors. My phone rang within hours. "Claire," he snapped. "What the hell is this?" I kept my voice calm. "You wanted a divorce, Mark. I'm just making sure it's fair. You think you can threaten me?" "No," I said softly. "I think you already did that when you filed behind my back." Then I hung up. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. He had no idea that the woman he tried to discard would be the one to bring him down legally, gracefully, and without a single scream. But the real twist, that was still coming. Mark always thought he was the smartest man in the room. He planned everything from his business deals to his betrayal. What he didn't plan for was that I'd stop being the woman who needed him. A week after Michael sent the legal notice, I started noticing small shifts. Mark stopped posting online, no power couple selfies with his assistant. His company's website quietly removed his bio. It was like he was trying to hide. Michael told me why. "Your husband's company is under review for tax irregularities," he said, sliding a file across the table, "and your name is still legally tied to it. We can use that." I blinked. "Use it how?" He smiled. "He filed for divorce to separate assets before the audit could hit, but since you're still his wife on paper, any hidden funds are also yours." He shot himself in the foot. I sat back, speechless. Karma had a funny way of working, quiet, slow, but precise. 3 days later, Mark called. "Claire, can we talk?" he asked, voice softer this time. "I think we already are," I said. He hesitated. "I didn't mean for things to go this way. It was complicated." "Complicated?" I repeated. "You left me while I was recovering from surgery." "Mark, that's not complicated, that's cruel." There was silence. Then, his tone hardened. "You're making this worse by dragging lawyers into it." I let out a small laugh. "You started it with divorce papers. I'm just finishing it properly." He hung up. The next week I met Michael at his office. He'd arranged a mediation session. Mark had agreed to come, probably thinking he could charm his way through it. When I walked in, wearing a navy blue dress and confidence instead of perfume, he looked genuinely surprised. "You look different," he said quietly. "I am," I replied. Across the table, Michael laid out the documents. "Mr. Collins, we have evidence of hidden assets and an extramarital affair that began months before the filing. If this goes to court, your client could lose significantly." Mark's lawyer looked pale. "We're prepared to settle," he said quickly. Mark stared at him, shocked. "What? No," but it was too late. His own attorney knew they didn't stand a chance. In that moment, I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I simply sat there, calm, watching the man who once thought I was weak realize that I had rebuilt myself into someone untouchable. After the meeting, as we stepped out of the office, Mark followed me to the elevator. "Claire," he said, desperate now. "Can we start over? I made mistakes." I turned to him. "You didn't make a mistake, Mark. You made a choice." "And so did I." "What choice?" he asked. "To stop loving someone who only cared about himself." The elevator door closed before he could answer. Over the next few weeks, things unfolded fast. The settlement was finalized. I got the house, half the business assets, and a generous support package. But more importantly, I got my peace. One evening, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment, sipping tea, when Michael called. "Just thought you'd like to know," he said. "The audit's complete." Turns out, Mark's assistant wasn't just his girlfriend. She was also skimming from the company. They both might face charges. For a second, I didn't say anything. Then I smiled, not out of joy, but closure. "Thank you, Michael, for everything." He chuckled. "No thanks needed. Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Never underestimate your own strength again." After that call, I leaned back, watching the city lights blur below me. For years, I'd measured my worth by how much someone else loved me. Now, I realized that the real power had always been mine, quiet, steady, waiting for me to notice. A month later, Mark showed up at my door. I wasn't surprised. He looked thinner, older. "Claire," he said softly, "I lost everything. The business, the condo, even her." I nodded. "I heard." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "You must be happy now." "No, Mark," I said gently. "I'm not happy because you lost everything. I'm happy because I found myself." He tried to speak, but I closed the door. Not in anger but in peace. Because some endings don't need fireworks. Sometimes, all they need is silence. That night, as I scrolled through my messages, one comment under my recent social post caught my eye. It was from an old colleague who wrote, "You look powerful, Claire. What changed?" I smiled. "Everything. What would you do if the person you trusted most betrayed you at your weakest moment, and then fate gave you the perfect chance to rise stronger?" Claire didn't scream. She didn't beg. She smiled. And let karma handle the rest. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud, it's living beautifully after being broken. If you believe strength is quiet but powerful, hit like and share this story. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive or let them face their own downfall?